Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to a new episode of Business Insider. Of Money Means Business. Your host is also the host of Business Insider, a program on Wednesday here on ITV International. This is Saturday, and this is Money Means Business. This is usually Nermeen Abdurrahman's seat, but I'm Mohamed Abdurrahim, and I'm sitting here for her on this episode. Tonight we'll be talking about the upcoming challenges that will face the newly elected president for a new 6-year term, of course, after a successful presidential election that saw a big turnout by Egyptians, especially by women, the elderly, and also many youth volunteers. We are awaiting the official results of the presidential elections that will be announced on the 18th of December. That's on Monday, and before the president will be a lot of economic challenges. So we'll be talking about those economic challenges, or at least give you a glimpse of some of these economic challenges in this episode of Money Means Business. Time now for a short break. When we come back, we'll be introducing you to our distinguished guest and start our discussion. Please stay with us. Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you for staying with us. With us now here in the studio is Dr. Mohamed Roshdy. He's an economic and banking expert and lecturer at Cairo University. A very good evening to you, Dr. Roshdy, and thank you for joining Nile TV International. And let me first, Dr. Roshdy, ask you about the major challenges that face the Egyptian economy nowadays, and that will likely continue to pose a challenge in the upcoming period after inflation, because surely inflation, which is a global trend, but is effective, affecting the lives of millions of Egyptians.
First of all, I would like to say good evening for you and our audience, and to thank you and the program team for this kind invitation today.
Thank you.
I would love to start with one of the famous quotes which state that the economy is the start and the end of everything, which is the main pillar for any nation or any country. And nowadays, we have a lot of challenges globally, starting from the global inflation wave. Actually, you had a nerve when you are saying the global inflation, which we have a global inflation wave. And I would like to take our audience through it in a nutshell. This is global inflation wave. It's started from COVID-19 pandemic, actually, which is negatively affected globally, and a lot of people lost their business, in addition to a lot of great and huge organizations, they opt from the market, actually, and negatively affected a lot on a lot of things. In Egypt, it was totally different, actually. Actually, we are, as you know, due to globalization and what are happening, the globe looks like a small village, and we are affected with everything. We affected with pandemic, but little bit we
overcame
we have a GDP growth, positive GDP growth.
We showed a lot of resilience during the Corona times, and it was attributed to the solid banking sector, by the way, your sector.
Yeah, thank you. What you highlighted, which is mainly was the major, the main pillar to have a sustainable economy. The pandemic negatively affected on the globe, and there is a theory for the economy which called Love W model for the economy, which is, in a nutshell, to simplify to our audience, which is the economy will take one of the shapes of L, which is if the economy there is a slowdown, it will be flat for a while.
And L is a recession.
Yes, L for it will. The going down float will be flat and we will live with it for a while. And W, the economy there's
it's
a
two
slow
bottoms.
Yes, perfect. Actually, the V
is the best, I guess.
The V, which is the economy will slow down and it will not take a time to return back and will go. The W model, what happened globally, which is the economy is slowing down, and then after that, little bit there's an enhancement,
and then came the Russia-Ukraine war,
and then it returned back, and then we turn it to the which we go for the Russian.
Also, I guess, Dr. Roshdy, that the mega projects and the stimulus packages during the coronavirus pandemic times in Egypt had a big role in sustaining growth for Egypt and in doing much better than many of its peers. That's during the coronavirus pandemic. But the Russia-Ukraine war really had an effect on the Egyptian economy and inflation.
Unfortunately, it's not only the Egyptian economy. Globally, in a nutshell, there is one of the most important theories for Maslow pyramid hierarchy of needs, which state that the first thing, which is the food, and then after, if you achieve the food and the essential or the primary
food
needs,
security,
yes, primary needs, and then the needs go after that for security, and then after that for belonging, until reach to self-actualization. One of the most important things, the food, and as you know, and our audience, Russia and
the wheat
Ukrainian, they are almost, they export like, they contribute with 30% of the wheat for the globe. And when the Ukrainian and Russian war negatively reflected on that. The wheat price increased, almost doubled, and the petroleum
Right.
or the oil increased, which is negatively reflected on all of the essential commodities.
Right.
And this is reflected on a lot of sectors, a lot of countries, including Egypt, as I told you and our audience, to be honest with
Now, an
ourselves.
upcoming challenge will also, I guess, Dr. Roshdi, be what's happening in the region and the barbaric Israeli brutal aggression against Palestinians in Gaza. The Israelis that have killed some 20,000 now almost Palestinians, mainly civilians, mainly women and children, that are making life almost impossible in Gaza. This will certainly or should reflect on the region, on the economies of the region, and pose an economic threat as well.
But I would like to highlight one of the most, to turn back a little bit after the Ukrainian and Russian war, to know where we stand, to know where we want to go, which is what happened during the Russian and Ukrainian war and COVID-19. I would like to highlight what the Egyptian government did.
Yes.
It was an amazing thing, which is actually, if I can say it, a lot of my international friends, they are saying it, they treated with the Egyptian government and the presidential leadership in a professional way that rarely we can find it in a lot of developing countries. Actually, one of them, we have actually a lot of infrastructure. What we are calling it the mega project, the infrastructure, the government has a lot of positive things. What we are telling people, there's what thing important here, which is called the SWOT analysis. Or in another word, they are calling, a lot of scientists, they evaluated this to be TWS analysis, TOWS. From that, you have to have opportunity. Like, for example, to simplify, one of the most famous jokes for COVID-19, it was in USA. They are asking people who is leading the digital transformation in your company. They are saying that CIO, CFO, CEO, or COVID-19. They are choosing
Yeah.
COVID-19.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what happened here in Egypt. From the
So you're telling us that the mega projects, the stimulus packages that created a lot of jobs, actually sustained the economy and helped to keep the economy afloat.
to have a positive GDP.
Of course, it will also be very beneficial for future generations as well, not just for now. But what you're saying, that the mega projects had a big role in sustaining the economy.
And helped us to face a lot of global challenges. The pandemic, the Ukrainian-Russia war, what's happening on the region nowadays, a lot of things. If we don't have a solid ground, this will not help us to go and achieve a lot of positive things. And nowadays, despite the fact, you can see easily, despite the fact we have a lot of challenges globally, we are trying to sustain a lot of things. There was a presidential election, which is a positive signal to the globe that we are on the right track. We have a democratic experience, actually, which is, if we don't have a solid economy, we wouldn't go or fly to other era, which is to have this democratic experience, that we are going to election and we are selecting our president in a democratic way, and the contribution percentage was one of the highest contribution percentage. We can say it loudly. This is why, this is due to we did a good infrastructure, and all the global threats, we worked on it to be opportunities. And the weak points, we are trying to invert them to be strength. That's what I'm trying to say, which is the TOS analysis or TWAS analysis in other way. Threat, change it to be opportunities. Weak points, it changed to be strength points, and this is what happened. As I told you, the pandemic was a great threat, and it changed to be an opportunity for digital transformation.
Right. Now, inflation remains the biggest threat, the biggest problem nagging society, and certainly monetary policy has a lot to do with how to fix inflation or how to deal with inflation. You, as a banking expert, tell us your views on this. Of course, there are other things like market supervision or customer protection from merchants' greed, and a lot of things that can be done to combat inflation. Trying to depend also maybe on the local component, a lot of things. But certainly the monetary policy is like the striker, the one tasked with scoring goals in combating inflation.
Actually, it's a good question. You are hitting a nerve. The MPC, which is Monetary Policy Committee, globally, they are managing to simplify to our audience. They are managing the monetary in any country, and globally there is the Federal in USA, and due to the global inflation rate, as far as I recall, in USA, at USA the inflation rate reached to 9%, more than 9%. It was one of the highest inflation rates 40 years ago. You can imagine, and what was targeted, which is 2%, and they worked on it to decrease it to reach, as far as I recall, to reach 5%. And the Federal increased the interest rate for a lot of times. You can see
they only stopped doing this very recently. Yes,
recently, due to the deficit, the increase of public debt, and a lot of things. And this is one of the tools. This is in USA, and there's
we also saw it in the UK.
Yes.
It was very also
UK
clear
and
in the UK.
and there is a benchmark. What they are calling it, it's called it was a LIBOR. Nowadays they are changed to be SOFR, actually,
right,
which is the benchmark for interest rate for lending and deposit. And this is one of the most important things that governments or monetary policy committee globally controlling things. And this is what happened in Egypt. To return back to our country, we are same at the globe. The monetary policy committee in Egypt, the central bank, actually did this in a professional way, actually, with coordination with all sectors. To simplify to our audience, this is, if you have excess in liquidity, what will happen? All of us would like to have this one bottle of water, for example. You have liquidity and I have a liquidity. This commodity will be overpriced due to we have a lot of liquidity. What should happen to absorb this liquidity? The other way, here in Egypt, we are under CPI, the Consumer Price Index for essential product, accordingly increased. What the central bank or monetary policy committee did with the coordination with all governmental sector, Ministry of Finance, the government, Prime Minister, the presidential leadership, the economy group, they are saying it, they try to little bit absorb the liquidity through increasing the interest rate. If you increase the interest rate, what will happen?
They'll go to the banks.
They will go.
The money will go to the banks.
Accordingly, the commodity prices will decrease a little bit because you couldn't afford to buy this. This is in a simple way to reach to our audience, and this is what the Monetary Policy Committee did to increase the inflation.
Yes, they did it, and more than once. But the question now, because the inflation rate is still at a much, and officially these are official numbers, is at a much higher rate than the interest rate in banks. So again, so what do we do now? Do we keep raising rates, or do we start, continue, proceed with a government program to sell, stakes of government companies in the stock market so as to bring in, a foreign currency and try to work on the foreign direct and indirect investments file? I mean, what do we do?
In my humble opinion, I believe I can see for the first time that all sectors are in the government are working together. The central bank is working to little bit decrease to absorb the liquidity. In addition to the government did a lot of initiatives to bring FDI, foreign direct investment. One of them, which is to get out from a lot of companies to give it to the private sector,
Shareholders, yes, stock market.
shareholders, to bring FDI. As far as I recall, it will bring like $10 billion. In addition to one of the most important things, the initiative to increase our actually exports to reach $100 billion in 3 years. And this is one of the most important things that will help us to decrease the deficit of balance of payment. In addition to, will bring a lot of foreign currency, and to return back, this is positively will reflect on a lot of things. In addition to create a lot of jobs, in addition to let entrepreneurs increase the local components, as you said previously, the local components on the
In the industry.
on the in the industry. Yes, this positively will reflect on the nation, will create a lot of jobs, and will help entrepreneurs to do a lot of initiatives. And as far as I recall, the unemployment rate, which one of the most important things, it was, as far as I recall, 13.4 in 2013, as far as I recall. Nowadays, it reached 7.5%, despite the fact which we have a lot of challenges. If we don't have a good vision, we will not reach to this point. We had it. For that reason, we overcome a lot of challenges. You can see easily, which is by figures, the unemployment rate, the FDI, and it helped us to increase our competitiveness ranking. If you would like to get FDI, you have to do a lot of things, which is one of them to have a good infrastructure. You have to have a good infrastructure, and this is what the government and the presidential leadership is focusing on, to have a lot of mega projects.
And you have to offer incentives, and we are also doing that.
Thank you.
Like the golden license,
This is what the GAFI, General Authority for Investment, is doing nowadays, with direction with the Prime Minister and the presidential leadership, and to help foreigners to come, in addition to help entrepreneurs. Nowadays, you can see easily that the government is focusing on SMEs, small and medium enterprises. Tell me why they are focusing on this. We are not inventing the wheel, to be honest. A lot of countries, which is turned to be one of the most important countries nowadays, they did this. They are focusing on SMEs, small and medium enterprises. To simplify it, if we have like our economy is mainly depend on like two major companies. If one of them is defaulted, what will happen? We'll lose like 50% of our economy. But if we diversified our companies, one of them defaulted, another one will come. We will have we are diversifying our investment, and this positively reflected on creating jobs, helps on a lot of things actually.
Yes, indeed, the GDP structure, I guess, and Egypt has always had a diversified economy, but and it's trying to even diversify it more. Now, certainly, and you mentioned the debt more than once, Dr. Roshdy, so let me ask you, because this is another important file. We have a public debt, an inner debt, and we also have an external debt with interest on it. So the debt file is a challenge.
To be honest with you, it's a global challenge, and presidential leadership highlighted on one of the most important conferences, global conferences, that we have to focus globally on the debt issue. But in Egypt actually, we are doing important thing, which we are when we are getting finance from internal or external finance, this is one of the most important things, that we are putting those finance to be investment, to have mega projects, enhance our infrastructure, which will positively reflect on the FDI. If you would like to get FDI, you have to have a good infrastructure, educated people, to have manpower. This is one of the most important things, and this is what's happening to help us to grow. And let me say it in a different way. I believe it's, which is the ROI, return on investment. This is part, we are getting money to have a lot of investments, and the return will be quite high. I hope we can see it in the coming couple of years, actually, because we have a lot of initiatives with the new capital, which will be one of the most important things. A lot of a lot of planets which depend on sustainable energy. Nowadays, we are going for sustainable energy, and it was a positive signal from the globe that we hosted COP27, as far as I recall.
Sharm el-Sheikh, yes, November
Yes,
23.
and what's happening, which is
November 22, I'm sorry.
yeah, what is happening was appreciated by
Sure.
the globe.
Sure.
I can see
Egypt has a leading role in
yes,
that globally.
we're turning back
Yeah.
to
In
our
combating
historical
climate,
role,
change, yes.
actually, in Africa, on globe. Actually, we hosted COP27, the BRICS. We are invited to be one of the BRICS, and as you know, they
Yeah,
are,
so how do you see those recent agreements with the BRICS countries?
in my humble opinion, it will be one of the most important things, because those, they are calling it tiger tiger economy. Tiger, they are calling it tiger. Why? They are metaphorically like, if a tiger is trying to get its victim or
Yeah.
deer, is running fastly. What's happening? Those economies are running fastly, and they will be one of the leading economies in coming future. If the BRICS didn't see Egypt one of the potential economies, they will not invited us to
Well, for
this.
sure. Well, for sure, Egypt has always had great potential and will always have the great potential. Now, what was also laid out in a presidential initiative was the national dialogue. And we heard a lot in the national dialogue about the economic challenges and solutions for those challenges in the past years. How do you see the effectiveness or the importance of the role of that dialogue that was called for, by the way, by the president himself?
I believe this is one of the great initiative to let the private public sector and working together in a good way to enhance the GDP growth, actually, which is one of the most important things. And as you know, and our audience, mainly the GDP structure is consists of actually three things: the agriculture part, industrial part, and the service part. The agriculture part, it goes without saying, it should be covered. This is one of the most important things. It's something important, and for our national security and a lot of things, we have to focus on this part. And we did the government did a great, and the presidential leadership did a great initiatives for it, and we have a lot of plans.
Yeah, the reclamation of lands, the
Yes,
cultivation of new,
especially Sinai.
of new lands, yes.
Yes.
All across Egypt, and of course this with the noble aim of achieving or continuing to achieve food security.
Yes. This is one of the most important things. And the industrial part, and you can see easily that a lot of planets, and they are trying to train the manpower, and we opened a lot of technical universities
Yes.
to train people and to have a good
We want
manpower.
the skills of the upcoming working force to match the needs of the job market. So you see an integration there, you see a vision there between the educational services being presented and the needs of the job market and the necessity of continuing to do that.
To be honest with you, I believe that one of the most famous quotes for Heraclitus, which is the only constant in the life, which is the change.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you can see we are in a we are in a
We
dynamic
say it in
globe.
Arabic. We have the same saying in Arabic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we have it actually.
Mm.
Yes, the only constant is a change, and you have to be ready for the change, and you have to be flexible, and to have all the tools to be ready to face this challenge. And to return back to our point for the GDP structure, there is a remaining part, which is the most important part, the service part. A lot of developed countries are focusing on service part. Why? This is the most added value part.
Mm.
And the government is giving a lot of caring and ambitious plans to grow this sector, which is positively will reflect on the GDP growth in a good way,
Mm.
and it will help us to achieve one of the highest growth globally. And by this way, you can see easily that there's a great plan, ambitious plan for um, enhancing GDP structure, bringing FDI, empowering youth by supporting entrepreneurs and giving them facilities. There's SMEs loan for entrepreneurs with
Right.
lower interest rate, and this is what they are calling it integrity between all sectors at the government, the country actually. This is what they are calling it the harmony. I believe one day Egypt, our economy will be one of the fastest growing economies, and it's common to have little bit changes in a
Ups
lot
and downs.
ups and downs, interest rate, exchange, but it will reach what we are working on to reach to be one of the most appreciated and economies. And by the way, what we did, which reflected on the competitiveness ranking report, which is one of the most important things that when if you are coming to a country and you are an investor, you have to read this well. And if you are seeing country, its ranking, competitiveness ranking enhanced, the competitive ranking, which includes the MPC, the infrastructure, the manpower, investing in education, health. This is positively reflect on the manpower. It's like a wheel. It's a cycle. You have to figure this. And I believe one of the I recalled one of my international friend told me that you are in Egypt have like a magic stick actually, that you are working on economy part, education, health, a lot of things. You are working against time actually.
A very important points you mentioned there, Dr. Roshdy, and let me get back to a couple of them. When you mentioned the competitiveness issue, of course, there is a plan here in Egypt to have a bigger role for the private sector. We are already seeing this, but the plan is, as we understand from the government, is for a bigger role in the future for the private sector at the expense of the public sector. And also, so that's one point, a comment on that point, and also a comment on the necessity of continuing to spend and to spend more on health and education.
This is which positively reflect on And the ROI, what I'm telling you, return on investments. If you would like, if you would like to bring FDI, okay, what you have to do to have infrastructure and manpower,
Mm.
educated manpower, they have a good health actually to work. And this is, you can see Egypt and Africa, by the way, in terms of they are calling it the youth continent actually. If you compared with with Europe,
Le vieux continent.
we
Yeah, the old continent, yes.
which is, if you
But it was called le vieux because it's old, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get. Actually, Africa, the pyramid of age, you can see like 75% of the nation, they are youth. You can build the country in a good way, and you have to invest on this. For that, increasing the number of universities, and this is what happened. Enhance, increasing the education budget, opened a lot of universities and schools, and a lot of there are a lot of mega projects concerning the education. And those the most important things. When you are bringing FDI, the investor is focusing on the manpower, the infrastructure, the incentive, like tax incentive, low incentive. You can see it easily. Then this is the third part of the GAFI, the General Authority of Investment, is working on it, like the golden license. You can see it easily. Those things working a lot of
We
sectors.
also, I guess, Dr. Roshdi, saw a lot of efforts and hope to see more efforts in the health file. Because, for instance, the combating of virus, the defeating of virus C here in Egypt. Egypt now free of it after it was such a big deal in the past,
Yeah.
and other, of course, also achievements that we hope to see more and more of. That brings me to
And national health system.
yes, and that brings me to the importance of social solidarity and social justice, because initiatives like the presidential Haya Karima initiative has a lot to do with health services, with educational services, and we've seen Haya Karima really working all across Egypt for the noble goal of giving Egyptians a dignified life. So talk to us about the importance of indeed the role of Haya Karima and other such organizations in giving the Egyptians some of what they deserve, because their role in health and education and housing and water, clean water to drink, and sewage water, and so on. We want more, of course. This is why I said some of what they deserve, because Egyptians deserve everything, and we want
Yes.
them to have everything.
Sure. I would like to share with you and our audience with one of the most important pacts in terms of changing to capitalism or free market. Actually, they are the governments globally forgetting low-income people. Here in Egypt, we are totally different. The presidential leadership giving priority to low-income people, and they did a lot of initiatives. As you mentioned, Haya Karima, it's one of the most important things, which is focused on good health, education, supporting them financially to turn them to be one of the most main pillars to have a growing economy and be manpower for a lot of mega projects actually, and they are supporting those families to be useful people to themselves, their families, and to give back at the end to our country.
Indeed. And we hope to see more from Haya Karima and from similar organizations in the future, and we are certain we are going to see that. Dear viewers, unfortunately our time is up, so on behalf of you, we thank very much Dr. Mohamed Roshdy, the economic and banking expert and the lecturer at Cairo University. Thank you very much, Dr. Roshdy. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching us. Next week, same time, God willing, is a new episode. Please stay with Nine TV International.